never intended to start a candle business. I call this my accidental candle business. Back in 2016, I was a corporate Boeing aerospace engineer. I worked there for 22 years. And my best friend Laura, she was that perfect PTA stay-at-home mom, right? But we talked and texted every single day. And we would always talk about, the moment after a conversation, right? So I'm in the boardroom and I want to tell this mansplainer that his math is not mathin', right? She's at a PTA rally and she wants to tell Betty that her cupcakes look like little titties or whatever. And it's all the things that we would have said if only we were more malicious. So that was our running joke for 22 years is, God, I wish I would have said that if only I was more malicious, right? Because as women, doesn't matter if you're corporate, it doesn't matter if you're that, perfect PTA mom, we are filtered. There are expectations of behavior. And we have been conditioned and trained to maintain that standard of behavior, right? In 2016, in a matter of 3 months, my entire life broke, fell apart. My dad, the most brilliant engineer that I've ever met, holds 17 patents for Boeing, fell off a ladder, suffered a TBI, and was in a coma. My sister, we are 364 days apart, was hit by a farm truck on her motorcycle and was airlifted to Harborview, broke pretty much the entire left side of her body. My daughter, who was active duty Navy at the time, was hospitalized for an injury. And I was doing the triangle of hospitals. For anybody that's local, it was Providence, Harborview, and Whidbey Island Naval Station. A couple weeks later is when Laura lost her battle with the darkness and took her own life. Done. I was broken. I didn't have anything left to give anyone. I lost my shit at work. And I was put on a 6-week leave of absence. I didn't get off the couch for 2 weeks. I was subsisting on Captain Crunch and red wine from the bottle. I was self-medicating and trying not to feel. It was pretty much the darkest time in my life. My husband at the time, God bless him, he's like, hey, Lacey, I think you should shower, maybe, if you want to. Maybe, right? Never one to be pushy. That's how you stay married 27 years. But he really encouraged me to find a therapist, and I did. He worked with me and helped me find an amazing therapist who encouraged me to find a hobby. And for me, I wanted to make a candle. I wanted to light a candle for Laura. And so my husband bought me this little kit on Amazon. It was awful. It was just paraffin and, whatever. And I was like, that's garbage. So then we started looking at a different kit, right? Maybe something soy-based. And we tried that and I was like, oh, I don't really love that either, right? And so we really started to deep dive. Now I'm off the couch. I've engaged my engineer brain and I'm thinking, okay, now I'm researching suppliers. Like I'm all in on learning how to create the perfect candle. I'm showering every day and I'm off the couch, right? And I'm talking now. I'm only talking about candles, but at least I'm engaging in human interaction at this point with my husband. Fast forward about 3-4 weeks, literally the entire living room was covered in candles. The dining room was covered in candles. The garage had cases of candles because nothing was good enough. Right? If I got 25 hours of burn, I wanted 30 hours. If I got 30, then I wanted 35. I wouldn't stop. I wanted 45 hours of burn time out of an 8-ounce jar. And what happened was my husband came back again, God bless him, and he's like, hey, Lacey. He's just looking at all of these candles, right? And I'm on a leaf. That's all I'm doing. If I'm not melting wax, I'm sleeping, and that's it. Right? I'm eating when Joe puts food in front of me. That's it. He encouraged me to go back to my therapist. I talked to my therapist and apparently that's called cross-obsessing. So I wasn't processing shit. I was hiding from my grief. My therapist challenged me and said, I want you to throw a party. And I said, fuck no. And she's like, no, you need to throw a party. I was like, there is nothing to celebrate. And she said, I want you to throw a party. I want you to do it. So a little rebellious, but also one that follows directions, engineer. So I said, fine, I'll throw a party, but it's going to be a shit show. And she's like, I don't care what you call it, throw a party. So I invited all my girlfriends over, and we set up these little craft stations, and we drank wine and we laughed. But what we did was I set up these stations because I felt like I was going through a lot of shit, right? And I know that my shit isn't any more important than someone else's shit, and theirs is no important, right? Everybody's shit is the most important thing to them. So what we did is I had these little stations, and we wrote our shit down, right? We talked about our shit, and then I had a bonfire in the backyard. We set our shit on fire, and as a way of letting our shit go. And it was so fun. And it was the first time that I had laughed and found just a little bit of that spark left in me, right? Well, because I had a massive amount of these test candles everywhere, I made little party favors. And so I got on, little label maker online, and I made these candle labels that said shit show and infused with chaos, because it just chaos, right? But I felt like it needed a name. And I reflected on all of the conversations that Laura and I had. And I was like, you know what? It's time to be malicious. It's time. If not now, when? And so I, made this little Malicious Women Candle Co. Again, never meant to be a business, but it was just, it needed a name. And Laura and I had this mutual love of chandeliers. We would look at chandeliers wherever we traveled, Germany, Georgia, wherever we were in the world to meet each other. We met twice a year. No matter where we were, it was always chandelier. And the last time that we saw each other, we were driving down I-5. It was a sunny day, and we were singing Sia's Chandelier at the top of our lungs. So I put a little chandelier hanging down from the Malicious Women Candle Co. The typeface that we're known for, Laura collected old typewriters. And so that was to honor her love of the written word. And I think the snark is for both of us. And so anyway, I gave these out as party favors, right? Thanks for coming to the shit show. Here's your candle. And my friends went nuts. And they're like, oh my God, Lacey, you've got to sell these. And I'm like, guys, no one's gonna buy a candle with the word shit on it, okay? It's just not gonna happen. So they're the ones that posted it on the Facebook Marketplace. And I was like, whatever, fine. And it was sold 1, sold 2, sold 3. I sold 74 candles in 24 hours, thanks to my friends that put them up. So I started packaging everything up. I went to Michael's. I got these cute little bags, put the candles. I had plenty of candles. Put the little candles in, and people came to my front porch. They picked up the candles, and I looked at Joe and I was like, I'm a bitch that gets shit done. And I said, I'm gonna put that on a candle. And that's pretty much how this whole thing has started is, my 3rd candle was let that shit go. My 4th candle is please don't use meth in my bathroom. All of these labels have a story. They have a meaning. They come from a place in my heart, right? And sometimes it's just for fun. Sometimes it's for a cause. Sometimes it has a deeper meaning, whether it's if I'm being political, if I'm being empowering, there's a reason for everything. And so then it just kept growing. I worked at Boeing for another 2 years. By that time, I had hired 4 people to work with me, just moms that had kids in school. So they would work during those hours that the kiddos were in school, and so we could support that work-life balance. It was very important to me to create not just the world's best soy candles, but an environment where we empowered the people that worked with Malicious Women, where we allowed people to leave work because their kid missed the bus, right? Infused with cold car rage. Where if you had to go pick up your kiddo because they had a 100-degree fever, your job wasn't in jeopardy. Where if we have a global pandemic, we're gonna set up our own pod. We're gonna hire a teacher, because it's not fair that women are the primary caregivers, and during the pandemic, men never had to give a thought who was gonna homeschool the kids, right? For the most part, I don't wanna be generalized, but for the most part, that emotional labor falls on the women. So Malicious Women is more about candles. we're a whole community. Whether you're an internal to Malicious Women, whether you're external to Malicious Women, we're gonna keep fighting. We're gonna keep talking about the hard things, and we're gonna keep donating a portion of every candle that's sold in honor of Laura as my way of keeping Laura's name alive. So far, we have already donated over $50,000 to the National Foundation for Suicide Prevention in Laura's name. The particular part that I donate to is education. So the part of the organization that goes into the school system that works with grief counselors and grief groups and really spreads awareness about suicide and the impact on the community. How do we prevent it? How do we support those left behind? That is our continued mission. You'll see on my tagline, it's illuminating the way one candle at a time. That will always be my core value. May I do it snarky? Maybe. May I drop 65 F words? Probably. It is my love language. I also want to say thank you, not only to the community who saw what we're doing and really resonated with our message, resonated with our mission, and not only financially supported, but just shared our posts and things like that. Thank you. To all the employees at Malicious Women Candle Co., past and present, the founding OGs to, the amazing crew that we have today, everybody in between that spent time with us in whatever warehouse we were in. Thank you sincerely for helping us grow, spread the mission, spread awareness, and we wouldn't be here without you. I would not trade this job for any other job on the planet. So yeah, all right, stay malicious.